Hello, this is a reply to the Atheist Addiction on her video. I forget the title at the exact moment. It's linked below, and it's basically about the importance of attempting to work towards our common goal. I'm going to avoid using the words atheist community seriously, but we do have several common secular goals. I got three major riffs on this, somewhat disagreement, somewhat not so, and I'm kind of confused as to which part she was actually talking about, because she both mentioned the petty insulting bullshit and the things surrounding Thunderfoot, which I think are on a different scale depending upon who you are talking about. Okay, taking it from least to most serious. Least serious is, or you'll get the idea. Basically, any communication between human beings is a dynamic process that goes on long after the conversation that takes place, as you think over what was talked about, even in passing, and as you take into account as what happened before the conversation informs how the words the other person is saying and how you respond actually goes about, and how it's interpreted. And so, really, when someone is insulting you or doing the bullshit stuff that I do sometimes, I know, I am not a pleasant person in comments, or I am sarcastically pleasant. Although usually there's no doubt that I'm being so. If I don't like you, you know pretty quickly. So, Atheist Addiction, I think you're wonderful, just so it's said. All right. This is something that is unfortunately part of the price of doing business as a human being. And that's part of the price of filming where I'm filming. But going beyond that, pretty much we can't ensure that our message is ever going to be heard as we say it. So we're going to wind up having to repeat ourselves a lot, even if only indirectly, and having to put up with a lot of bullshit, just because we are not very well-behaved critters in general. Second, the idea of go along to get along in its most extreme form, and okay, accept that there is an established order and work to make that order stronger and attempt to progress your idea within that order, does ignore some very important things. One, the idea that there is an order can be called into question, since it only exists in the separate minds of human beings, and therefore each human being sees it as something somewhat different. Second, although we as secularists have some similar goals, I can't talk today, how we go about them and why we go about them are somewhat different, and this informs a lot more than just the goals, because how we go about these things and why we're doing them informs what we do up to getting to the goal and beyond. So, these disagreements may be more important than you're thinking about at first blush. Again, I don't completely understand. I don't completely know exactly what your argument is and where you're drawing the line between necessary and unnecessary argument. And when someone puts themselves forward in a leadership position, whether or not you've accepted that or not, and says that disagreement and dissension is counterproductive when you disagree what they're saying, essentially what they are saying is that they are free to speak for you and you are not. Boiled down. That's my primary disagreement with Thunderfoot. And that's why the somewhat joking Thunderfoot delenda est, when I have nothing against the human being, because I don't know him from Adam, But the image of the community leader, no, sorry, that's got to go. And I cannot make it go, but I can mock it, and I can call it as I see it. And I just told you how I see it, so I won't repeat myself. Most importantly, and most abstractly, you might say, that idea of going along with the larger tribe is an old one, and it has survived very well. And if you watch any of Dan Dennett's videos, the videos where he's speaking, he talks about ideas that reproduce, that because they reproduce, because they include in them the idea that you must pass these ideas on to other people, that they survive well, and that they flourish, and that they spread, even as they change. I think that idea of an organized structure that one must conform to in order to bring about the good of the group needs some nuance, needs some alteration, and most especially with our progress since the introduction of the trial by jury and scientific peer review and the scientific method, I think the adversarial relationship needs to be seen as something that is sometimes positive and sometimes necessary for real progress. That what happens when we go into an idea of institutionalization, not in the mental health sense, but in the building an institution made up of people and working for the good of that institution, that maybe we are not necessarily accomplishing that goal, that maybe what we are introducing is stagnation and the opportunity for confirmation bias among the people in the institution to become rampant, and self-interest to be masked as altruism. And I realize I'm sounding an awful lot like a libertarian here, but I'm not going that far, because I do realize that groups do serve a purpose. That's why I said nuance, not destroying. And the idea that criticism is not necessary, especially in the formative stages of, well, I wouldn't exactly call this the formative stages, but pretty much every organization out there that is made up of widely scattered people has had to reinvent itself since the invention of the internet. So really quashing dissent at these formative stages, I think we've done enough by idolizing the Four Horsemen. I think that the idea that conformity is something to be sought when what we are attempting to produce is nonconformity, I don't see it. I don't see the logic behind it. So I'm obviously not quite seeing what you're saying. I'm seeing some of the value in not arguing for argument's sake, although I have a great deal of fun with that, and a great many people piss me off, so I'm afraid I'm not going to be terribly helpful in that regard, but I'll try. I just can't promise much in the way of results. There are too many people who I enjoy jerking around because they're a pain in the ass, in my opinion. But the point is well taken, and I will do my best with that. On the other extreme, I gotta go with the whole free speech and open to criticism as a serious priority, because conformity is what got us where we are today. Other than that, wonderful video, and thank you for your time and attention, and this is meant to be a compliment to, not a direct criticism of what you're saying. Thank you for your time and attention.